Economies of scale means that as a firm gets bigger or increases its scale of output, it will be able to reduce the cost of producing each unit. For example, if McDonald's is able to achieve economies of scale, it can produce each burger at a lower cost. Here's another way of understanding economies of scale. Average cost is total cost of production divided by output produced. In the long run, firms have access to more factors of production, and therefore they can increase their output. In this equation now, total cost is being divided by a larger amount of output, and this will therefore decrease the average cost of production for the firm. Remember, fixed costs don't change, and therefore as output increases, we spread our fixed costs over a higher and higher output, and that will also reduce the average costs of production. So think of economies of scale like this. When you spread your total costs over a higher output, your average cost will fall. Let's imagine that we own a burger shop. We produce 100 burgers and the total cost is £200. The average cost of production, therefore, is the total cost of £200 divided by 100 burgers, meaning the average cost of producing each burger is £2. In the long run, we can get more capital, enterprise, land and labour. This means that we can increase the scale of production to 1,000 burgers, for example. Now it might cost us £1,500 to produce these 1,000 burgers. If we calculate the average cost now, we will see that it will be £1,500 divided by 1,000 burgers, which will give us £1.50 a burger. Therefore, as a result of increasing our scale of production, we have been able to reduce our average cost. In the long run, as a result of growing in size, the average cost of producing each burger for the firm has fallen. Therefore, the firm has achieved economies of scale. Why might it be cheaper to produce each burger if we produce on a larger scale? So as a firm grows in size, it is able to replace labour with machinery, reducing the average cost of production. This is because machinery may be more efficient or productive than workers, thus lowering the average cost of production for firms. For example, it would cost a firm less to get one tractor to dig up a large area of land than hiring hundreds of workers and paying them each a wage. Another reason why firms may be able to reduce their long-run average costs of production as a result of growing in size is due to something known as bulk buying or purchasing economies of scale. Larger firms operate on a larger scale and therefore will have larger quantities of raw materials to order from suppliers. For example, a large construction firm may be able to get a discount on ordering a larger quantity of cement from cement suppliers. This is because it is cheaper and more profitable for the cement supplier to sell a large quantity of cement in one go rather than selling smaller quantities more frequently, and therefore suppliers are able to offer lower prices to larger businesses who buy in bulk. As firms grow in size, they can hire specialist managers to look after specific parts of the business. This increases productivity as managers can maximize productivity of the inputs they manage due to their skills, expertise and knowledge, thus increasing the efficiency of production. An example of this would be a football manager. They are able to get the best out of their players in each position, and this makes the team more productive and efficient in scoring goals. Marketing economies of scale is where the cost of advertising per unit is lower for firms that produce large outputs of a good or service. For example, if a company produces 100 trainers and pays £1 million for an advertising campaign, the cost of advertising per trainer is going to be £10,000. But if Nike produces 1 million trainers and pays £1 million for an advertise, the cost of advertising each trainer is now only £1, and therefore Nike have been able to reduce their average cost of producing trainers. Financial economies of scale is where larger firms can borrow or access money at lower interest rates. This is due to the fact that they often borrow larger amounts of money, and secondly, they are less risky to lend to, as larger businesses often make high revenues and profits and therefore are less risky for banks to lend to, leading to lower interest rates and therefore reducing the cost of producing goods and services for the firm. Risk-bearing economies of scale is where firms produce more than just one type of good or service. Therefore, if the cost of producing one good rises, they can reduce costs in producing other goods and services, and therefore their average cost of production will fall. An example of this would be Tesco, who now have a banking, mobile and insurance business. Therefore, if the costs rise in their supermarket business, they may be able to reduce costs in their other businesses, thus lowering their average cost of producing their goods and services. Internal economies of scale occur where a fall in the long run average cost of production happen as a result of growth within the firm itself, as opposed to external economies of scale, which we will look at shortly. All the economies of scale we've looked at so far are examples of internal economies of scale. Let's say loads of banks and finance firms set up in the Canary Wharf area. As a result, transport links improve to the area, internet improves in the area, bankers move closer to live in the area, and now if you are a bank in Canary Wharf, you will be more productive and produce at a lower cost due to the growth of the wider industry in which you operate. This is because your workers will be located closer to your business, and the infrastructure around your business, such as transport and internet, will allow your firm to be more productive, therefore lowering your average costs of production. If firms achieve economies of scale, they can produce at lower costs, charging lower prices to consumers, and therefore are able to gain a competitive advantage compared to other firms in the industry, allowing them to increase their market share and their profits in the long run. Look at Tesco, for example. Your local grocery store can't compete with Tesco, as Tesco gets so many economies of scale that they can charge much lower prices than your high street grocer. As well as providing benefits to firms, there are wider economic benefits to society from the achievement of economies of scale. If firms are able to produce at a lower cost, more output can be produced from inputs, and therefore more needs and wants can be met from limited resources. Diseconomies of scale occur where long-run average costs of production begin to rise as a result of the firm increasing its scale of output. This happens due to three main reasons. Reason number one, coordination. When firms grow to a large size, it can be difficult for managers to coordinate workers. Employees may not know what their roles and responsibilities are within the firm, and therefore they may not be productive. However, they still represent a cost to the firm, and therefore average costs will begin to rise. For example, in a large school, it may be difficult to coordinate teachers to students, meaning some teachers may be getting paid but are without students to teach. Diseconomies of scale also occur due to issues related to control. In large firms, it is difficult to control resources as workers may be far removed from management and therefore lack productivity. For example, in a large school, some teachers may manage not to be productive as they know they are not accountable to any managers. And this means that they are being paid but not adding output to the school, and therefore the cost of producing education would rise. The final reason why diseconomies of scale occur in large firms is due to issues related to communication. In very large firms, it may be difficult to communicate messages to where information is required, meaning workers will become less productive and average costs will begin to rise. For example, in a large school, some teachers may not know where they are supposed to be and what they are supposed to be doing, thus raising costs for the school and not increasing the output of education. This graph relates the output of a firm on the x-axis to the average cost of production on the y-axis. In the long run, as the firm grows in size, output increases from 100 units to 200 units, leading to a reduction in the long run cost of production from £2 a unit to £1 a unit. The minimum efficient scale is at 200 units. The minimum efficient scale is just the output at which the long run average cost of production is minimized. As output increases past the minimum efficient scale, the firm will begin to experience diseconomies of scale. In section A of this long run average cost curve, the firm is said to be experiencing increasing returns to scale, which means the same as economies of scale. This is because increasing the scale of production causes a more than proportionate return in terms of output. In section B of this long run average cost curve, the firm is experiencing constant returns to scale, as the long run average cost of production is constant when the firm increases its output. In section C of this long run average cost curve, the firm is experiencing decreasing returns to scale, or diseconomies of scale. This is because increasing the scale of output is causing a less than proportionate return in output.